Hello everyone, Blaze here, welcome to my August 2015 anime pickups video. This part is going to be pretty much Blu Ray focused, so let's get into it, shall we? So first up we have Kite and Kite Liberator. These are the Media Blasters Blu Rays of the 90s OVA, and I believe this one was the early 2000s OVA. I watched the Kite for the first time last night, really enjoyed it. This Blu Ray is a bit of a mixed bag, we'll get into that in a minute, but overall it's a pretty nice presentation. It is the censored version, which, well, I say censored, it's the edited version. Obviously Kite is actually a hentai, but it's not really, it's not just about showing sex scenes. There's more, like, there's an actual story to Kite, and it just happens to have sex scenes in it. But because they're presented in a explicit fashion, it's been essentially considered a hentai. But there's a proper story here. So in the case of the edited version, where the sex scenes are just implied, like you just yeah, like just the way the story is structured in the edited version, the sex scenes are taken out, but the lead up to those scenes are still in there. So when those scenes would have taken place, because you get the small build up, so you just miss the actual scene itself. So everything's implied. You go, okay, so that happens, and then you move on. So you don't really need it specifically. It doesn't ruin the story, is basically my point. And the story is really cool. It's got a really awesome atmosphere to it. Obviously, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but directed by Yasuomi Umetsu, or Umetsu or something, who is the guy that did the Robot Carnival short called Presents, which I don't know if I've talked about overly too much on this channel. I know I talked about it when Robot Carnival was licensed by Discotech, but basically that is one of my favourite anime shorts like I've ever seen. Like the detail in it, the story, the animation, the soundtrack, everything about that short is absolutely amazing. So I was quite excited to go and check out some of this guy's work. Unfortunately, though, I came to discover that pretty much up until just recently, the only other things that he directed were Kite, Kite Liberator, and Mezzo Forte. And in the case of the original Kite and Mezzo Forte's original OVA, they're both hentai. And then there's also a Mezzo Forte TV series, which I'm pretty sure is not hentai, and Liberator is not hentai either. So yeah, at least I don't think it is. So I was sort of disappointed, honestly. I was kind of like, well, that's a shame. Like, I was really enamoured by his work, his debut work as a director called Presence, and I was really excited to see what else he'd done. And other than, in terms of being a director, those were the other things he'd done. Like, other than that, he's just been a character designer. But anyway, so yeah, I watched the Blu-ray for Kite last night, and I really enjoyed it. It's got it's just a really cool story. Like I said, it's a really cool style, and dare I say, when in terms of the atmosphere, and you've got like the jazz sounding soundtrack and the sort of sci-fi elements to the weapons that are on offer and stuff, and while they're not bounty hunters, they're assassins, but it's kind of got a small Cowboy Bebop vibe to it. I don't know how people will feel about that. It predates Cowboy Bebop by a couple of years, but I don't know, like, there's just a certain style to it, which for me anyway, the first thing that came to mind when watching it was Cowboy Bebop, but I imagine there were probably quite a few other things that predated Kite and Cowboy Bebop combined that both that were reminiscent in terms of style, etc. Then we've got Liberator, which I've not seen. Liberator, so far as I'm aware, is a complete upscale, as it was a digital animated series, so I don't imagine I can't imagine this looks particularly great on Blu-ray, but the first OVA looks really good on Blu-ray. It's not presented as an OVA, it's presented as a movie. Like, originally it was a 2-episode OVA with credits in the middle, but given that the second OVA episode starts immediately where the first episode ended, it's just been presented as a 47-minute feature. And yeah, it's really good. The high definition film transfer that Media Blasters have done themselves, the Japanese release of this is just a complete upscale. but Media Blasters went out of their way to try and present this in the best way possible, and it did a really good job. It looks really, really good when it's in high definition. The sad part is apparently the film print had some damaged scenes in it, mainly from the second episode portion. So from about 25 minutes onwards, this starts to occur, where you get a lot of spliced in, occasionally short, occasionally unfortunately not, like spliced in shots that are from standard definition material, basically, rather than from film prints. So yeah, it can be quite distracting. There's a part when they're falling through from this building, they fall into this highway, and it'll be like all in high definition, and suddenly halfway through the fall it's in standard definition, and then it'll cut again to high definition, and then very briefly, literally for a 1 second shot, it will be in standard definition, and it switches like that quite a lot in the second portion. And still, for the most part, I would say 80% to 90% even of this feature of the original is in high definition, but unfortunately parts of it just aren't. It's in standard definition, and yeah, and unfortunately the standard definition SD upscale just looks really muddy. It doesn't look very good at all. It's just not even a very good like where they've got those SD materials from just isn't really a very good source material in the first place, even for standard definition. So it's unfortunate, but really there's nothing they could do about it. It only really bothered me the most where there's a scene towards the end where it's a pretty a pretty important scene towards the end, which is pretty much solely in standard definition. Like, it runs for about a minute. In that minute, a good 40 seconds of it are in standard definition, which is really unfortunate. But there's just I don't imagine there was anything they could do. Media Blasters said it was damaged. The only I'm talking about this for a long time, but the only thing I can say is it's sort of unfortunate Media Blasters didn't show us, or at least include, the damaged scenes as a special feature. I would have liked to have seen them, even if they had like giant scratches or burn marks or God knows what. I still would have liked to have seen what was left of those scenes as a special, as an extra, just to see what they are actually, the condition of those scenes. But unfortunately, Media Blasters have not included them, so we can only take their word for what those scenes look like. Because if it was only like a really bad scratch that maybe took up like a big line down the screen, or a couple, I would have taken that over the standard definition upscale, honestly, because even if you're losing that lines of detail, vertical lines, whatever, you gain a lot more, in my opinion. Anyway, whatever, I've talked about this for way too long, so that's Kite and Kite Liberator. Let's move on to something else, shall we? Okay, next up we've got Ranma 1/2 Box 2, or Set 2, the special edition. So this is the Blu Ray release. I picked up the first set when it came out, and when I don't know, for whatever reason, I never got around to getting the second and the third one when they came out, so I ended up deciding, once I hadn't got those day of release, I'd just wait until all of it's out, and I'm pretty sure the 7th set came out this week, or last week. So yeah, now that they're all out, I'll be picking them up semi-regularly for the next few months, and hopefully by the end of the year or early next year, I will have the complete Ranma 1/2 on Blu-ray, because I definitely want these sets. I don't know how long they're going to be in print for, obviously, because there's a standard DVD edition, a standard Blu-ray edition, I think, and then there's this special edition as well. So I definitely want the special editions. They look really nice with the foil, and just these are some of the nicest sets around right now. And it's such a shame that Viz are able to produce something this great, and then so often they can also mess it up as well with other shows, which I've talked about before. But yeah, just a really nice presentation overall. Inside, spine, and the back. Discs 2 and 3. This one comes with a card. I don't believe my first one came with one of these. I can't quite remember, but yeah. Like a art card. And then finally we get a book, which I'm pretty sure is just an episode guide. But still, Really, really nice. So yeah, just a really, really nice release. Obviously, the only downside to them is they don't stand up on their own. I know a couple of you out there were sort of annoyed about that, but honestly, once it's on the shelf, it's not that big a deal. But it does mean when I'm doing these videos, I have to balance it on something, otherwise it won't stand up. But anyway, yeah, that's Ranma 1/2 box set 2 on Blu-ray. We'll be picking up the rest of those. Really awesome, really happy to... This has come to Blu-ray with the beautiful Japanese high definition masters that were done for Ranma 1/2, as well as shows like Urusei Yatsura and Maison Koku. Both I would love to see come out on Blu-ray as well, but Ranma was certainly the most popular in the West, so I'm not surprised that was the first one that came out. So yeah, Ranma 1/2. Let's move on to the next thing. Okay, next up we have Inuyasha, the final act, set 1, which, despite it being set 1, was actually the last part of the final act, given there's only 2 parts, that I needed. So I already had set 2, I now have set 1. Unfortunately, my set 1 isn't in the greatest of condition. It got damaged in the post, and as you can see, there's a pretty nasty rip just on the spine here, which is unfortunate, but honestly I'm at the point where, while it's a shame, I just wanted to own all of this show, because it's, I don't know, it's just taking me a while, so now that I have all of it, at some point I can watch it. Obviously another Rumiko Takahashi show, so the only, once I have all the Ranma, the only show I will not have in its entirety, or at all even, of Rumiko Takahashi's is Urusei Yatsura. But yeah, I've got the complete collection of the movies, and then we've got, lift it up, all 7 seasons of the original show, original run of the show. So yeah, I've now got a complete Inuyasha collection. It's taken a while to get it. These I picked up in the crazy Viz Right Stuff sale when basically when Viz Media wanted to put them in light boxes, so they wanted to stop producing these digipacks. Right Stuff put the rest of the ones that they had, of the ones that come in the digipacks, for only $10 each. And I know that me and many other people took advantage of that sale and picked up the entire run of the show. So yeah, this cost me $70 for all all the box sets combined. And then eventually, obviously, I picked up the movies and the parts, etc, etc. So yeah, I have all of Inuyasha now. I've watched seasons 1 and 2, or at least most of season 2. I'm on episode 48. I like the show, but I wasn't aware of what sort of show it was. I thought it was a shonen series, that shonen fantasy series, etc., that had a lot more action, was a lot more story based than, or plot. I can't. It's episodic, which I was not expecting at all. Like, it's pretty much episodic. Like, there's no, like, the shard breaks and they're meant to go and find the pieces, but there's no path they're seemingly taken to do that. It's just kind of, oh, we found a bit over here, just randomly. I don't know. Like, there's no, they're not on an adventure to go and find the rest of these pieces, which is what I thought it was going to be when it started. But yeah, it's much different. But it's okay. It's still a good show. It's just, given how long it is, it's kind of hard to keep my attention when you haven't got a story that keeps making me come back. You know, when I can cut myself off after each episode, then yeah, at some point I cut myself off after episode 48. Started watching something else, and it's been many months now, and I still haven't gone back. But I will eventually. I now have it all, so I've got no excuse not to eventually watch all of it. So yeah, that's Inuyasha. Okay, so 6 more Blu-rays to go through yet. Starting with this one, Guen Saga on Blu-ray. The complete collection, all 26 episodes on 4 discs. I previously owned, and actually still do own, and I will be selling them soon, this show on DVD. When it was first announced to be coming out from Sentai, they initially solicited a Part 1 DVD and a Part 1 Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray got cancelled. They put out the 2 parts on DVD, and then eventually they came around and did a Blu-ray release of a complete collection rather than parts. I watched the show a long while ago now, and I wasn't overly enamoured with it. I wanted to really like it, and I did like the early parts of it, but it just sort of dragged. It wasn't an exceptional show. You might be wondering why I've then gone and bought it on Blu-ray. Well, the main reason is simply that while I'm probably not going to get much money for the DVDs, even if I make just £10 on the DVDs, that'll pay for pretty much almost what this cost me. This cost me, I think what was it, £17-18 in total for the complete Blu-ray release of Guen Saga, which is half of what it normally goes for, brand new. And I haven't seen it that cheap ever before. And I was just kind of like, it's meant, it's actually a high definition show. Like, it's not an upscale on Blu-ray. Like, the DVDs were just the only version available when I went to buy the show. But now, the Blu-ray's been available for a while. I sort of wanted it, but wasn't going to go out my way to get it because, as I said, wasn't particularly enamored with the show. But which I think is honestly down to the fact that this is based off a really, really, really long light novel fantasy series, which runs, I think, about 130 volumes. Now, I don't know how much of that is adapted in these 26 episodes. I would hope only the first few volumes, like, the first 5 or 6 maybe or something. But yeah, it's a show. It's a story and a world which is much deeper and grander than perhaps the show has enough time to really explore, I guess. So yeah, it's good, and yeah, but it's not great by any means. It's fine, but yeah, at the price, I wasn't going to turn it down, especially when I could make most of that money back on DVDs. And then, by the time I've ended up doing that, this Blu-ray is probably only going to have cost me about, I don't know, £10-12 or something maybe. It's a bit damaged down here, but other than that, it's fine. And that's just the case. The actual artwork isn't damaged, so if I wanted to replace the case, I can. Also, it comes with a bunch of special features. Like, Sentai thought this was going to be a great seller for them, and I don't believe it was, unfortunately. But yeah, just really, really nice artwork. Sort of reminds me of 12 Kingdoms. I think 12 Kingdoms, again, which is another series that's based off quite a big, long-running light novel series, or actually a novel series, I think, that one. Not quite as long as Guen Saga, but yeah, I feel like that's a better type of similar story than Guen Saga. But yeah, Guen Saga and Blu-ray. Let's move on to something else.